We are going to get started now. For those of you who don't know me, this is actually my first time in the UK, so a lot of you probably don't know me. My name is Valerie. I work for a company called SecureCon. We're based out of Washington, D.C. So we do a lot of cool stuff at SecureCon. So we do a lot of pen testing services, network, web app, mobile, whatnots. We're also very heavily involved in the SCADA environment. So we do a lot of critical infrastructure work and a lot of federal stuff as well, which means that I just get to play with all different kinds of toys. So it's very awesome. I just got promoted to principal consultant last week. So if you get my business card and it says senior, I'm not lying. It just happened Friday, so I didn't have time to get everything set up. I've been doing this for a while, right around 10 years, having a great time. Don't plan on stopping anytime soon. We just released a book, Bill Garner and myself, on creating an information awareness program. That is available on Amazon in the UK. Somebody tweeted me a picture the other day that they finally got their pre-order, so I think that's all good to go. So in addition to doing a lot of pen testing and playing with the SCADA devices, social engineering is kind of my thing. If you've seen any of my videos online or some of my articles and my blogs and whatever, you'll see that I like to do a lot of that. So not only do I include that in my assessments, I teach people how to be social engineers who want to learn, and then I do the flip side of that as well. I teach defense against social engineering. So the second isn't nearly as fun as the first. All right, let's get some expectations out there really quick. This is what this talk is not. I'm not here to sell you on the idea that awareness training is the best thing ever and it will fix everything. If you find a solution that fixes everything in security, please let me know, because I haven't found one yet. So when Bill and I started to put the book together, we really started to look at an audience of folks that worked in corporate security or federal security that were a little technical, maybe not overly technical, and they were in charge of putting together the awareness program. Well, if you've never done it before, that's a pretty large undertaking. So that was the basis and the foundation of how we decided to put the book together. So this talk kind of goes along with the book, same kind of basis and foundation. There is a little spin since, I have a security audience. It's a little bit easier to intro everything since I don't have to explain all these terms. So what's an awareness program anyway? Training is not an awareness program. So I don't know about you guys, but because I'm a consultant, I go in and out of a lot of organizations. I see a lot of training. Training usually consists of some really badly written CBT in a little pop-up window that requires IE like 7. So I always have to roll back an old VM to get this thing to work. And then it's text. That's it. 50 slides of text. Do you think anybody's reading that? I know I'm not reading that. I'll tell you, it's okay. Nobody's reading 50 slides of text because it's not interesting and it's not relevant. And if it hasn't been updated since IE7, I'm pretty sure it's not up to date with the latest technology and the latest threats. So what does that mean? That means that we're doing a lot of stuff wrong. When we put together an awareness program, it's not just about a CBT. It's about incorporating different kinds of delivery methods and making those work for your target audience. So it's just one part of our little pyramid here. So we have a hacker pyramid at DEF CON, right? So we decided to put together our little security pyramid. It's just part of the foundation. Training alone will not save you. Technology alone will not save you. You have to combine them together to get the best return on investment. So back to really bad training. We've all seen it everywhere. So how do we fix it? One of the biggest holes that I see in training is normally there's no social engineering training in there. And because that's my niche area, I'm always looking for it. If I find it, it's usually like a sentence buried at the bottom. Something about beware of social engineers. Well, to anybody outside the security industry, that's not going to make any sense. They don't know what that means. So I started explaining it to folks that aren't necessarily security involved about this is how this works. So you have awesome technology, you patch everything every month, everybody's got the latest and greatest. You've got a next-gen firewall, because that's the new sexy, right? Is this being recorded? Gotta be careful. Anyway, we've got all this great technology, but we're still vulnerable to social engineering attacks because we're not properly arming our people with the knowledge that they need. So, why does social engineering work in the first place? I mean, we have this awesome technology. It shouldn't affect us at all as an organization. Well, it works because it works on people, not on technology. Social engineering isn't just a people problem or a technology problem. It's the combination of both together. Most people just want to be helpful, especially in organizations where they haven't had a lot of awareness and a lot of training. They don't know what social engineering is. If I try to tailgate behind somebody into a building, they'll let me. They'll hold the door. Some of your other organizations who are a little bit more mature, that person will turn around, hey, can I see your badge? Or you need to swipe there. So it's very prevalent, especially in mid-sized companies. Once you get around the 75 to 200 person mark, it's too big for everybody to know each other. And then once you go 200 plus, it's obvious that nobody knows each other. So it's a little bit more difficult for your folks to keep track of who should be where. And a lot of folks, they provide free information. So when we do some social engineering attacks as part of a pen test, a lot of times we'll target a help desk because they're good targets, right? Let's face it, because they're there to help. They're very helpful. So usually when that happens, one of us will call up. It's usually me because I can do the best ditzy voice. The other guys, they're still working on it, but it's just not there. And I'll call and somebody from the help desk will answer. I usually do this right at the end of shift. So right at the end of the third shift, right around 6:45 a.m. When the third shift guy just wants to get out of there. He doesn't care what he has to do to get you off the phone. And I tell them, this is Mary from accounting or wherever. I just got back from vacation. I can't get logged into my computer. It says that my username and password's incorrect, but I know the password's right because I use the same one for everything. In the ditzy voice, this works very, very well. So then I say, okay, well, I'm trying to log in as msmith at blah, blah, blah. And then they'll correct me because their job is to help, right? And they'll say, oh, no, it's Mary.Smith. So then I'll make some banging noises on the keyboard. And, oh, you know what? That worked. Thanks so much. So you guys already know when you're brute forcing accounts, you need two pieces of information, the username and the password. So now I've got the username schema, I can take that data and I can start to look on social media. LinkedIn, love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the phone book for social engineers. This job was so hard before LinkedIn, but not now. It's just a phone book of everybody who works in that company. First name, last name, that's all I need. So how do we stop all this? I put together a little piece called the Social Engineering Defensive Framework. Previewed that at Besides DFW a while back. We're not going to go over all of that today. As you can see, educating the workforce, i.e. making your awareness program, it's a bullet in there, but there's a whole lot more to it. First you've got to understand how the attacks work and understand your exposures. If you've never had, we call this an exposure assessment, where we basically go out and just gather information the way that a social engineer would. If I was going to target this company, if I wanted to hack them, social engineering is involved, how would I do it? And we basically crawl through their website. We look for pieces of information that's out there that probably shouldn't be. We look to see how many email addresses they have exposed. We look to see how many people they actually feature by name on their website. Those folks should go in a higher risk category. Their names, faces, and contact information is out there for the world to see. So it's very easy for just anybody to get a lot of information on them because that's their job. Their job is to face the public. And then we move on from the website and look at things like Pastebin and things like Jigsaw and really get a good idea of how much data is out there. Do they have documents all over the place? Do they have usernames and passwords that we can extract from metadata? So doing that really gives them a nice overview of, hey, here's all the information that's out there on you that shouldn't be, without actually attacking them. So if you've got a newer client or if your company hasn't really done a whole lot with social engineering or pen testing and they're a little bit nervous, that's a really great place to start because they assume no risk at that point. Everything that we're going to find is already on the internet. Evaluating defenses. So that's what it sounds like, right? So we take all that information and then we decide to map out the attacks that make the most sense. And that's one of the things in social engineering that I think a lot of folks get a little confused. So if I have a client that comes to me and they say, Val, we really want a social engineering assessment. We want you to do these 3 tests. And that's great that they think that they know what they want. But the best way to do social engineering attacks is to gather the data first, and then you determine your attack based on the data that you get. So phishing may not be the best attack for them. That may not be where their money should be spent. Maybe their physical perimeter looks really, really immature. There's a nice word. Maybe that's a better attack vector. What about phone calls? So it's better to gather the data first and then determine the path that you want to take. Unless they've got their heart set on these 3 scenarios, I try very hard to steer them in a different way. And like I said, that does include cyber and physical. So we have a great security divide still in most corporations. You've got cybersecurity and you've got physical security. Well, guess what? They protect the same assets, the same stuff, except they don't talk to each other. Cybersecurity is usually very highly respected, and physical security is usually not so much. You tell somebody that you have an entry-level physical security job, they'll look at you and go, that's nice. You'll get a better job one day, though. You tell somebody that you're entry-level cybersecurity, and they think you're the smartest person in the world. But yet you protect the same data, the same people, the same assets. So you need to work on kind of closing that divide. Educating the workforce, we're going to talk about that today, so we're not going to go into that right now. Existing technologies, streamlining existing technologies. We're not buying anything in this process, all right? We're going to take the technology that already exists in the environment and really evaluate it and see how we can use this to minimize the impact of an attack. Okay, somebody clicked the link in the phishing email. Now what? How far can they get? What tools do we have in place that can tell us that something is wrong? What do we have on the endpoint? Is there something there that can tell us besides antivirus? Are there some heuristics that happen at the endpoint? If you're using something like a McAfee, like an EPO kind of thing, there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. NIDS, if you have it, maybe we should tune that up a little bit, and so on. So the point of that step is not to go out and buy the latest, greatest red box with the blinky light, because that's the growing trend, right? We have the latest, greatest red box, so we must be secure. So it really takes a look at what you have and how to use that better. And then a response plan. This sounds a little silly. For folks like us that work in security, we just assume that everybody has an incident response plan. A lot of places don't. And this includes cyber and physical. What happens if somebody gets into the building and plugs into the network? Well, we know. Back to the technology. If they do, how do we address it? Incident response plan. So we've got a bunch of disconnects, and the social engineering defensive framework just works to provide a roadmap for organizations to really get a better handle on how they can minimize the impact of social engineering attacks and prevent them in the future. So I do blog on Information Security Buzz. If you want to read more about it, feel free to visit. But what if we, the security people, are part of the problem? And I know that they just armed somebody over there with a dart gun, so If you see me lose this eye, it's because I've said something to offend the guy with the dart gun. But security people, right? We work really hard. We're working so hard. We're updating our firewalls, we're patching, we're doing this, we're doing that. But we still have incidents. And it's because of the stupid users. It's obviously the stupid users' fault. Well, maybe. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's time to take another look at how we do things. So I know that I'm only a quarter of the way in, but this is where we're going to get to the secret sauce of how, if you're going to make an awareness program, these are the keys that you really need to look at. If you take nothing else away from this talk, I want you to remember the points on this slide. Don't try to make your users security experts. That's your job. You are not going to be able to make Mary in accounting a cybersecurity expert. She's not supposed to be. She's supposed to work in accounting. Just like you're not going to be an accounting expert just because you cash your paycheck each pay period. Same thing applies. We don't want to make everybody cybersecurity experts. When you try to do that, you overwhelm people with so much information and so much data, it puts so much pressure on them that they don't know what to do with it. So they either lock up because they get nervous or they just ignore it. So we want to give people a nice foundation to understand some of the basics of the do's and don'ts, but we really just want to give them the opportunity to say, this doesn't look right. Oh, I know. We're supposed to send suspicious emails to this address, or we're supposed to call the security desk if we have a question. That's what you need to do in your security awareness program. You're not making little cybersecurity experts. You're making little human detection sensors. This doesn't look right. I got a phone call. It didn't sound right. This email, I think something's wrong. So where the culture change comes in there is you, as the security department, you've got to handle that properly. And that's going to take some time. This is definitely not an overnight process. So a great example, my husband works security as well for a privately held firm. They're pretty large, they're about 4,000 people, all over the states and the world. And one of the secretaries there, she knew that he was security, and she called him one day in a really big panic. She said, "Oh my God, I think something's wrong with my computer. Can you please come down here?" So he, rolls his eyes, right? Because that's what security people do when they get those kind of calls. And he trudges down the steps, and she's sitting there biting her nails, looking at a Google search page. He's like, "Well, it still works. Okay. I don't see anything wrong. What's the problem?" She scrolls to the bottom, and she says, "I did a Google search, and then all these extra O's showed up at the bottom in Google on this page. What does that mean? Did somebody hack my computer?" And as security folks, we deal with technology so much every day, we don't think about little things like that. So right there was a very opportune moment. So he could have rolled his eyes and said, "Wow, that's really dumb. I can't believe you called me down here to do that, to look at this. This isn't a security problem. This is how it's supposed to work." But instead, he took the 30 seconds that it takes to explain to her, this is how Google works, and this is when it adds an O, that means that it's another page that you can click on for search results. But if you're going to look for things that look a little strange, you should look up here in the address bar. You should look down here in the icon tray. 30 seconds of his time. Now, because he took the time to explain it to her like she wasn't an idiot, she'll call the next time she has a problem. Maybe the next time she's suspicious, it might be something really bad. Had he have not handled it that way, had he have just rolled his eyes and told her how stupid she was and then just walked away, do you think she's going to call again? Ever? If she's suspicious that there's something wrong with her computer but she doesn't know what? No. So we as the security industry need to do our due diligence in starting to create a corporate culture that is really open to more communication with our folks that use these machines every day. Because unless you're communicating, you're not going to know what's going on. I have a small pet peeve that goes along in with this. It's a technology piece, and it sounds silly, but I hit it on all of my internal reports where I see this. Folks with these internal websites, they have an SSL certificate that's either self-signed, expired, and valid. What happens? Puts the red bar up there, pops up the dialog box, doesn't it? Says, hey, this is a secure web page, but it doesn't look right. Do you want to load it anyway? And they always click yes. So when you don't configure your SSL certificates properly on your internal website, you are training your users to ignore all those prompts and just keep clicking yes until they get what they need. So small pet peeve, take it for what it's worth, but you're training them to do it wrong if you're doing it that way. It doesn't take very long to produce a proper SSL certificate. One more thing, make it matter to them. And this is really where social engineering your own starts to come into play. So as an example, us at SecureCon, I mentioned we do a lot of SCADA work with critical infrastructure. We also do a lot of, let's call it pre-audit work. So with the infrastructure folks, they have to have an assessment each year by a third-party vendor for the security of their not so hot devices. So devices that run power plants aren't like the devices that we use every day. They don't have up-to-date servers. They've got some things with serial to IP converters on them. You know, they have a lot of non-traditional things in their environment that they need to protect that they don't know how to do. So it's a very hands-on kind of paper-like process. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it at all, but they have to do it. So when we come into this, we try to put a little security spin on this, right? Yes, it's compliance. Yes, I will help get you ready in case you get audited. I will show you what the auditor is going to look for. However, we can do better from a security perspective. So this was a long-term client. It's a power plant, actually. Generation plant, really, really large on the East Coast. And we've been doing their assessments for about 5 years now. So we were familiar with most of the staff. They were ready for us, but they had a new router guy. New router guy didn't like me. All right, he didn't like me at all because I'm here talking about this audit crap and he's got stuff to do, and this is just a waste of his time. So we get through about the first half of the day, and we're at lunch. And because the guys know that we do a lot of consulting in other places, they'd asked if I had done any fun physical pen tests lately. So I started to describe a more recent one where we attacked the RFID system and cloned the cards. And router guy's still over there like this, angry at lunchtime, until I said something about cloning RFID cards. And then I almost saw like his ears perk up. And he literally just stopped me. He said, "What did you say?" I said, "Well, ID cards, like the one that you have. I can make duplicates of those and enter the building as you, and the system won't know the difference." That was all I needed to say. So after that, he was completely fascinated because I made security about him. This could happen to me. What do you mean this could happen to me? How do you do that? I'm like, well, I've got the equipment in the car. Do you want to see? So we gave them a quick little RFID demonstration, showed them some defensive techniques that they could use. That guy was my best friend the rest of the week. So once I took the time to find something that really mattered to him, and that really wasn't on purpose, it just kind of happened. I made security matter to him, not to the company, to him, because that's something that could have happened to his card. Somebody could have entered the power plant using a clone of his ID. You don't want that on you. I tell that to all the new interns. It scares them to death. And you know what? They use the RFID blocking sleeves that I give them after that. So once I made it important to him, he was much more receptive about all of the audit things that we needed to work on. So, and I understand from the flip side, you know, I'm coming in, I'm this auditor, I don't know anything, right? And I'm sitting here telling you how to run your switches and how to configure your firewalls. But once we got past that small hurdle, he couldn't get enough advice. He would ask us about this, he would ask us about that, stuff that wasn't even really SCADA related. So when you make it matter to your folks, they're gonna start paying more attention to you. So it's kind of like training in disguise. Each and every one of you work in a different kind of environment. Sure, to a point, we're all security people, we all kind of work in an office, but not necessarily. All those offices are different. All of those offices have different threat models. What are we defending against? It just depends on who we are as an organization, who's targeting us. I don't really know about that last one, but anyway, that's another story. Before we can really create a good awareness program, we need to understand what's important to us as a business. Who is looking to attack us as a business, as an organization? Once we've got a good handle on that, then we move on to stuff that we should cover. Okay, there's a lot, but remember, we're not making little cybersecurity experts out of Mary in accounting. We aren't. We're teaching Mary in accounting the basics, the rules of the road, and then what to do next if she comes into something that looks suspicious. Understanding your audience. So it's not just about Mary in accounting. It's also about the SCADA operator, the guy that works in the power plant. He's not sitting around looking at his email all day. The threats that are against him are very different than the threats against Mary in accounting, against your IT organization, against your help desk. So really understanding how security matters to each one of your organizations gives you a really good perspective on how you can start to spin that to make that important to them as individuals and to them as an organization. Now, when I teach social engineering classes, I always stop to talk about communication styles. And everybody rolls their eyes and they say, Val, this is dumb. Why are we learning about communication styles? We want to social engineer people. We don't want to do this. Well, communication styles are really important to social engineering, but they're also really important to people who need to teach. How are you going to teach somebody if you don't quite understand how they communicate? So folks, for the most part, fall into three basic buckets. And we've got visual folks, auditories, and kinesthetics. So the next few slides are based on content from a book by an author called Nicholas Boothman. And his book is called How to Get Somebody to Like You in 90 Seconds or Less. So his thing is all about building rapid rapport and quickly identifying what kind of communicator that person is, and then using words or phrases or body language to appeal to that communication style to do a little bit of, it's almost like a nonverbal kind of bonding. So visual folks, we're going to go through this pretty fast, but I want you to have an idea of who these folks are. Visual people, they think in pictures. So if I start describing the ocean to you, the first thing you do is it pops into your mind. You see a picture of it. Folks that are visuals, they usually look up and to the left or the right when they're talking because that's when your brain is creating or recalling an image. So a little psychology in there. They're usually in professions that require quick judgments. High-ranking military officials, folks in upper management, things that require a constant stream of input and output. They use a lot of tag phrases like these. This is just a few. I won't read them all to you. I'll just let you glance really quick. I want you to kind of think about as we're going through these, like which one you think that you are. And then you can take the test. It's in his book. I don't know if it's on his website. It's like 10 questions to kind of give you an idea of what your communication style is. So the auditory folks. All right, sound is really important to auditory folks. They'll kind of tilt their head when they're talking to you. For visual folks, this drives them crazy. Because for visual folks, eye contact is paramount in a conversation. For auditory folks, when they tilt their head like that, they're actually leaning their ear in closer to you so that they can understand what you're saying better. So they'll look off in the distance because they're not really focusing with their eyes, they're focusing with their ears. But to a visual person, that's offensive because you're not looking at me when you're talking to me, you're obviously not paying attention. Little things like that. I'm split down the middle between visual and auditory, but I think that I kind of lean more toward auditory. And the reason for that is, I travel a lot as a consultant, but public places and noise, I just can't do it. If I get on a plane without my noise-canceling headphones, somebody's going to die. That's just all there is to it. Screaming babies on planes, just can't do it. Background noise. I don't like background noise. I can't have the TV on when I'm trying to do things. It bothers me. My husband's a visual guy. So, and I kind of knew this already, but I gave him the test anyway, just to see what he said. And he went down through there and he said, this test is dumb. All these answers are A. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. So, and that's just a good example of how different folks have different communication styles. And once you kind of identify these in your coworkers as well as other folks in your life, you can start to pick up on phrases that they use and little habits that they do, and then you can start to speak their language, whether that's using more describing images or using more describing sounds or using the pitch of your voice or the tone or the speed. So what about these kinesthetic folks? Kinesthetic folks are all about kind of like the right look and feel of things. They're usually more laid back. It's not so much about appearance. It's not so much about sound. They kind of roll with things. They look down a lot when they're speaking because they're recalling feelings. So you look up when you're recalling images, down when you're recalling feelings. So the next time you're in a heated debate with somebody, kind of watch their eyes. It's kind of a tell to see if they're maybe telling you the truth or not. Kinesthetic folks, they speak very slowly. They really think about what they're trying to say. If you're a visual or an auditory person, that drives you insane because you just want it out with. Come on, let's go. My son is a kinesthetic guy. I ask him how his day was. I get 500 words about, how Sally did this at school and then whatever. I ask my daughter, visual good, how was school? Good. Done. That's all she needs to say. It was good. I don't need to know anything else. My boss is a kinesthetic, so I know when I go into his office, it's going to take a while, all right? There are no quick trips into his office, so I can kind of plan my day around that. So little life hacks in here too, things that'll make your life a little bit easier. Once you identify, kind of what folks lean toward is communication, you can start to use that to your advantage. But this also matters in training, right? So posters are cool. They work sometimes for some people. They're not going to work for everybody. Somebody standing up here giving a lecture, that's not going to work for everybody. So you kind of need to blend your learning environment to appeal to all three of these types of folks. I call this people patching. So when it gets down to really training and teaching folks how things are, it's all about describing how attacks work. Once you demonstrate something, it really starts to bring it home. Sure, we can tell people, don't click on this, don't click on that, it does bad things. What are bad things? And actually, I forgot, I was going to put a slide in here about that awesome hacker 4chan. I'm sure you guys have heard about that over here too, the leaked nude photos from the iCloud. So I think that the leaked nude photos from the iCloud might actually be like the gateway to really opening up awareness training to folks because it matters to them. Yes? So my next talk, I think that I'm going to do at a user level, is going to be called Cloud Security. Where are your dirty bits? To try to teach folks about cloud security and when you put things in the cloud, where is it going? It's going on somebody else's computer, all right? Stop calling it the cloud. Just call it somebody else's computer. But doing comparisons like that and explaining it in different ways really helps them understand, oh, wait, I don't really want to hand this photo album full of incriminating pictures to strangers. That would be silly. So if you can adjust your style to match their style, you'll really start to make a lot of progress. Computer-based training is cool. It has its uses. There are some cool programs out there that use really short modules that are nice. The whole hour plus CBT, man, ain't nobody gonna listen to that. I don't. I have ADHD when it comes to CBTs. I click through the first 3 slides and I'm good. Start to pay attention, I'm like, all right, okay, and then I'm done. 10 minutes in, if you haven't told me what I need to know in 10 minutes, I'm not listening anymore. And especially the ones where they read it to you because they're trying to appeal to auditory folks. So you've got the slide up there, and it's literally reading the slide word by word. So for visual people, you're like, I know, I can see it, shut up, but you can't fast forward it. So it's something to keep in mind when it comes to choosing your CBTs. Choose them wisely. Don't go with a one-size-fits-all. Go with something that fits your environment, that really appeals to the folks that work for you. All those threats aren't going to be the same, so they're not one-size-fits-all. Use them where you can. Don't rely on them exclusively. Little things like this. All right, well, this is all basic stuff to security people. This is not basic stuff to other folks. I still show this at government agencies and get tons of questions. I don't need to teach them about what SMTP spoofing is. They don't need to know how it works. They just need to know that it's possible to change this to make it say whatever it is that I want it to say. Don't rely on this as a key indicator that this is legitimate. Little things like this, build them into your program. Shorten links. Anybody know where that goes? Yeah, me either. So, how can you expect one of your users to know? They may not even know what shortened links are. If they're social media folks, they're clicking on those things all the time in Twitter. They don't know where they go. You need to teach them about tools that can help them track where those actually go. QR codes. Oh, QR codes. Social engineering exercise. We make pizza flyers for whatever the local pizza shop is, and we put that, you get a free coupon if you scan the QR code. If their parking lot isn't patrolled or it isn't controlled, we'll just go out and slap those on everybody's car. And then just watch the shells roll in from all the phones. And then you can use that as your jumping point into the environment because it's already partially trusted, yes? So little things like this, little things that we don't think about. I think there was one of these actually in the goodie bag that we got. At least there was in the speaker bag. I dumped it out last night to dig through it. I don't know where it goes. I didn't scan it. Maybe somebody can tell me because I'm not going to look. Java. Teach your users about Java. Bless you. They don't need to know how Java works. They just need to know when it's appropriate to click this button and when it is not. If there are applications that you use in your environment that require Java applets, teach them those. There shouldn't be more than a handful, maybe. Outside of that, they really shouldn't be clicking on anything that looks like this. Everybody that knows social engineering and the social engineering toolkit knows the Java applet attack. It's Dave Kennedy's baby. Why? Because it works really, really well. And that works really, really well because folks don't understand what this thing is and they just keep clicking until something happens. So again, we're not teaching them to understand how Java works. We're teaching them to pick up the phone and say, got this email, clicked on this link, I'm not sure this is right. And then you, as the security team, take over from there. All right, the website. This is kind of important, and I think that this gets overlooked in a lot of places. I don't see this very often. If you're gonna tell folks about security, you need to give them a really nice reference point to go to if they have questions about it that they may not want to call about right away. Does anybody have a copy of their encryption policy for their environment saved to their desktop? I don't. I'm not going to save all those policies. Why? Because I need a centralized location where I can do a few clicks and get to what I need instead of digging through email to find it. Because if somebody's going to dig through email to find it, they're going to spend so much time looking for it that they're just going to give up and do whatever they want anyway. So giving them a central hub to really get their hands on everything that they need to know, especially the numbers and the email addresses if they have questions or they need to report something, cyber and physical. If they notice something that looked off, in physical security-wise, they need to be able to report that as well. Security tip of the day, just small little things that we don't think about that make a big difference for folks. External topics, right? You don't have to blog all this stuff. You don't have to recreate the wheel. Send them to blogs about identity theft. Send them to blogs about RFID security, how it works. You don't have to write it all. Most of it's already been written. You just need to point them in the right direction. Give folks the right tools to make good security decisions. I love this one. This is going in all of my presentations from now on. Some folks have a real problem with password safes and password generators. Depending on what your company view is on that, I can tell you that that password generator is going to come up with a password that's far more complex than what your user is going to come up with on their own. They don't have to remember it if they use a password safe. If you make them come up with complex passwords that they have to remember, then they're just going to increment them by one, or they're going to reuse them everywhere. That's not really helping, is it? So consider giving your users tools to really help them. Like I mentioned before with the shortened links. Give them a few websites to hit where they can paste that shortened link in there to check it if they're worried about it. And that's other great material that you can put on your website there. All right, so we got a bunch of material. We understand our audience a little bit better. Now what do we do with it? Presentation is everything. Absolutely everything. So this is an example. Last year, I think it was, I was asked to give a talk for a defense client, a government client of mine. I said, hey, we're doing security day. You know, you like tear our network up all the time. Can you come and talk to our users and talk to them about like basic security things? So yeah, I can do that, no problem. So the director of security was also giving their annual awareness training the same day, later on in the day. So the only thing I've changed here is I just changed the logo for theirs. It had their government logo on there. So which one of these sessions would you rather attend? If you were only going to spend an hour at security day and you got credit for either one of those as your annual awareness training, which one would you go to? Probably not the boring one. So my talk was actually first in the day, and the room filled up, and then they started lining chairs up along the edges. And then they started standing, and then they started standing in the doorways. And afterwards, the director of security comes, scurrying up to me. He said, what did you do? We've never had this many people show up before. How did you get them to show up? Who did you tell? I said, I didn't tell anybody. I said, it's just my title. It's been on the posters, and it went out in the emails. So then I felt a little bad. It was a little bit embarrassing for him, because everybody came for my talk, and then there were like 6 people in his later. We covered a lot of the same material. But they didn't know that. So you have to social engineer your own. Make it interesting. People are not going to pay attention otherwise. That's why I have funny cat pictures in my slides, because if I just showed a bunch of words, you'd have been asleep 20 minutes ago. Probably 30, actually. We're getting into the 40-minute mark here. All right, moving beyond the PowerPoint. I'm a big, big, big fan of this. PowerPoint is cool. It has its place in very limited areas when it comes to awareness training. Bring some folks in to do some demos. Have a little mobile lab set up as a lunch and learn. Show folks about mobile security. Tap and pay credit cards. Again, we're making this matter to them, because once you start the habit of people thinking security-related things, security-wise, then they'll start using that every day and work and life. So you make it matter to them at home, it'll matter to them at work as well. So social engineering your own, right? Make it important to them. Those behaviors will carry across in your environment. I'm a big fan of the video stuff. So there are some really cool programs out there that have short videos with different security topics. So, all right, I didn't put these guys in because they're a media sponsor. Restricted Intelligence, they are a media sponsor. They are out there. They've basically taken a sitcom approach to security videos. So they've developed this cast and they've developed these characters and they put them in different situations that talk about removable media safety and like shredding documents and things. But it's funny and it's entertaining, and people like it because it makes them laugh, and it's always great to laugh at somebody else making a mistake. You're not going to laugh at yourself when you make a mistake. So if you're looking for something like that, they have some very affordable plans. Go check them out. They have some cool stuff. Sans Securing the Human. They didn't really take a comedy approach. They don't use the same cast everywhere. They make a bunch of short clips about data encryption and all kinds of various topics. I think they have like 40 or 50, usually 2 to 3 minute clips. And I'm not sure about the pricing on that. I think that's on a subscription-based service. But if you're looking for something to kind of liven stuff up a little bit, you know, beyond the CBT, beyond the PowerPoint, beyond the lecture, tying that all in together, these are some great places to look. Contests. I know, it sounds like grade school, but you'd be amazed how motivated people get when you start making things a contest. Small things, right? Awareness posters, those things that people don't really read that often. Have a competition to see who can make the best one. Have a homemade video clip contest, that's always fun. Depending on the folks that you work with and how, you know, technology versed they are, they can really get into this. Folks that report phishing, that they hit that forward button and they send it to the spam at, you know, whatever your company domain is. Put them in a drawing for something. It doesn't have to be anything great. $10 gift card here, something larger, small electronic device. Parking space. You get a parking space close to the door, people will be very much more motivated to report phishing, trust me. Okay, I'm running out of time based on my timer and the clapping from the other room, so we're going to go through this a little quick. A little bit of psychology. So we're still social engineering our own. Yes, we're using psychology and social engineering for good. NLP has been around for a while. Some folks say that it works, some folks say that it doesn't. It was really designed as a therapy method for folks undergoing, they didn't have the term post-traumatic stress back then, but a tragic event. Who else uses this? Marketing people use this. They use this to sell you stuff all the time. They use pretty women, yes? Right? I mean, that's how they can get you to buy like really crappy hosting service, because otherwise nobody's gonna buy GoDaddy stuff. You know, they use it to sell you like motorcycles and sports cars and really, really bad food. Really bad food. Nobody goes there for the food, right? Because it uses NLP. And NLP basically will take what we call an anchor. And that's where you are attaching a feeling or an emotion to a certain state. So nobody goes to Hooters for the food. They go for the visuals, yes? So when you see that orange and white, you'll start to recall that logo. They use colors for this, they use music. That's right, they're little jingles, right? And slogans. And they're using NLP to tie those in as triggers. I don't have time to show the video today. I'm gonna do it in the workshop tomorrow. I'm doing a workshop tomorrow with the same thing, basically, but we're gonna build this out. It's 2 hours. So to be a lot more reference material and things in there. But I have a video that demonstrates NLP in not quite real life, but TV life. So for those of you who can't make it tomorrow, I don't really think I need to explain who Darren Brown is here, do I? No, yes, no, I can't see you. I'll just go over it really quick. So Darren Brown is what they call a mentalist. He's a performer. He does a lot of hypnosis and very awesome things based in the UK. And I was very, very sad that he's not touring right now during my first visit here. But he has a program. He's got a lot of programs. There's a specific episode called The Heist. And you can get it, I think it's on YouTube, pretty sure. Check it out. It's 45 minutes, but basically he uses NLP and he uses these anchors that I'm talking about to convince these people to rob the Bank of England. without actually saying anything about robbing a bank. So those of you that are going to come out tomorrow, we'll watch that after we talk about NLP some more. Those of you that can't, check it out. And I am 2 minutes away from my time slot, so I can do quick questions if I can see you. Otherwise, I'm just going to hang out over here outside in the common area. That's all.